Hello everyone, this is In-Game Art with another boxing, another offline product game review. This is Mighty Goose for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with the update version 1.04 run on the disc, and I'm happy to say at the time of making this video, there were no updates available. Now, like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I didn't experience any massive game-breaking bugs or issues. The game worked perfectly from beginning to end with little to no problems, and as well, I was unlocking trophies with my unregistered account, and I even platinumed the game. Now, before we go into it, I do want to point out that this physical copy of Mighty Goose is from Limited Run Games, so getting a copy will not be the easiest in the future. There is also a PS5 and Switch version. I do want to point out I do not have those physical copies, so I can only speak about this PS4 version being played on a PS5. But for the most part, I did not have any issues with this PS4 version of Mighty Goose. Now, this is my first time playing Mighty Goose, so I didn't really know what I was getting into. The first thing that I want to point out is that Mighty Goose is a fairly short game. I beat the game probably within a little under 2 hours. This is including just the base game. Once you beat it, you do unlock New Game Plus, which is like a higher difficulty. I did complete that as well, and all the extra bonus little levels. As I said, I platinumed the game and 100% completed. I'm pretty sure by the end of it, I was a little over 5 hours in total to fully completing the game. Now, as I said, this is my first time. Mighty Goose is kind of just a run and gun shoot 'em up kind of style game. You just play as a goose who is like a super mecha goose, and you're running around beating bad guys, and that's all you really do. There's no like huge like RPG, no Metrovania, stuff like that. Think of like a little bit mix of Mega Man, if you will, but you play as a goose, if you will. And the biggest selling points of it is obviously the quirkiness of being as a bounty hunter goose, and the goose can occasionally get special weapons that change out its combat from a machine gun to a shotgun to a rocket launcher to a laser gun, and as well as you get these mecha suits you can be able to get, like a mecha armor, you can drive a tank, you get a motorcycle, airplane, submarine, and so on and so forth. That just doesn't really change up the gameplay all that much technically. It's still just a run and gun shoot 'em up, and that's about it. It is nothing too major in terms of story, characters, or anything like that. It's just basically a big meme kind of style game where it feels like the developer played the game Untitled Goose Game and wanted just to make a game about a goose rampaging through the galaxy as a bounty hunter. Which is fine. You don't have to have this big narrative and big arching story. Sometimes these cute, quirky little games are enjoyable. But I just wanted to point out the shortness of the game. For me, it's not that big of a deal. These pick them up in congestible quick games aren't fine, but I understand for some people if your budget's really tight and you don't want to spend a lot of money and you get this game hoping it's going to be something good and it's only beat within 2 hours, I can see some disappointment and frustration in that. So I just wanted to point that out. For me, it's not that big of a flaw, but for some people it may feel like it's a game breaker, especially if you're buying a physical copy, and it could cost you $30, $40, possibly more for the physical copy. Definitely, if you're interested, I probably would recommend maybe checking out digitally before you commit to a high-priced physical copy. Now, I do want to point out some minor grievances with the game. Now, there's nothing really truly wrong with the game. The game ran great. The game, like I said, there was no crashes, no freeze up, no stuttering, no nothing. The game played and worked, functioned, no problems whatsoever. It's just that, as I said, that it's just a run and gun kind of style game. And there are some minor little hiccups between that. First off, there is a certain part in the game that feels like they should have probably had some explanation or tutorial. It's at like the 3rd or 4th level. There's a point where you have to crawl underneath this tunnel. Well, there's no tutorial explaining this, and there's no part of the game ever explaining that this is an encounter you should look out for. But I can see some people coming across this because there's a door at the bottom, and it looks like the game, every other door from prior would usually had a switch, or you just approach it and it opened. I can see some people getting very confused, thinking the game locked up. No, you got to climb up this upper platform, and then there's somewhat of a tunnel, but you think you could just roll into it because of how it's shaped, but you can't. And you have to push down like you're crouching, and then push forward at the same time, and you can start crawling into that hole. It's very weird because it almost interrupts the flow of the game to some degree. It feels like the developer threw that in there to change it up the gameplay, but it just felt out of place. And like I said, there was no tutorial of it, so you almost feel like the game may have soft locked on you. But please do not worry. That's just some odd game design aspect right there. Next one is that this game has a lot of bang bang shoot 'em up chaos going around, which is fine. It's very graphical and presented really nice. The only problem is that a few times it can be really hard to see anything. You can't see enemies, you can't even see yourself, you can't even see projectiles coming at you. So it can be very frustrating in that area. I do recommend maybe altering the settings, the accessibility feature. I turned off where I had to push a button every time to shoot. I just put it on auto fire. It was a lot more comfortable. It even felt like the game should have been designed that way. As well as the screen shaking and flashy bits, and as well as that giving the bullets a glow effect around them, made it a lot easier. And overall, it felt like how the game should have been designed. Because it just, overall, the presentation felt a lot better. Personally, for me, you may feel differently, but just keep it in mind. I recommend picking out the accessibility area if things are getting a little disorienting and nauseating with all the flashy bits, shaking screens, and stuff like that. Next up, we have during cutscenes or a dialogue moment in the game, you can still take damage, as well as that once the dialogue is over or the little cutscene, and if there's a damage point right there, it's going to hit you. So I thought that was a little cheap. There's a few times I actually died or took damage because I couldn't move because it was a dialogue exchange or a minor cutscene, and I just felt that was a little unfair. That it wasn't my fault. I couldn't move. The overall experience was, like I said, straightforward. There's nothing too major here. It's a nice little run 'em up, shoot 'em up, a relaxed kind of style game. Nothing major, not too depth or anything like that, but there's nothing really bad about that. It's just how you're going to want to play your games. And for me, I thought it was interesting. I thought the graphics presentation was really good. I like how fluid the game was. I mean, some might think that's a little odd to bring up how this game should not be having no frame rate issues or stuttering or the fluidness of it. And you'd be surprised. Like, just because the game's a sprite graphics game doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an optimized game. Generally, you'd think a sprite graphics game should be running at 60 frames per second with no stuttering, but it all depends about the optimization. And this game was optimized fairly good. As I said, no problems whatsoever. And I'm happy with that. I thought this game, at first, I didn't really enjoy it, but as I put more hours into it, as I said, the Game Plus, I mean, of course, I even platinum the game. Overall, I ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was just a quick, pop-in game. You could play it over the weekend and have some fun with it. It doesn't have to have this big narrative, big RPG elements, or anything like that. And of course, there's massive balancing issues. There's some weapons that are obviously better than other ones, abilities that you can equip that are obviously better than other ones. Again, it's just a wacky, quirky, almost a meme-style game, but it's still fun. The presentation is good. If you can get a game cheap, or preferably probably a digital copy first to see if you even want to invest spending bigger money to get a physical copy, I can see that. For the most part, I am happy to have this on my shelf. I can't see myself going out of the way to get multiple physical versions of this game, but overall, I thought it was a simple style game, and I think that's perfectly fine. We don't need every game to be a 60-hour game, but I understand that for some people, money's tight and you have to make a choice for a game, you're generally going to want a game that's got some meat to it. So I don't blame that. I can understand why you could be frustrated playing a game that's only beatable in 2 hours. But overall, I am happy. I thought it was enjoyable. What you see is what you get in the video. It's pretty straightforward, its presentation. And overall, I thought it was an okay experience. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will leave links down in the description if you're instant copy. It's entirely up to you, as I've explained. It just depends on your budget and what you value to put on your shelf in terms of your money and time. For me, it was a unique experience. It was different, and you don't see too many games like this. So I'm more than happy to have a very on the nose, just having some fun, running, blasting, shooting, and have a good time. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will try to leave links in the description if you're instant copy, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye bye.